Breaking. Sean "Diddy" Combs' legal team is asking a federal judge to give him just a 14-month prison term after his conviction on 2 prostitution-related counts, a request that's already set off a firestorm across the music world and legal punditry. The defense filed a sentencing memorandum arguing that 14 months, followed by supervised release with mandatory drug treatment and therapy, would be fair given the circumstances. The request comes as Diddy remains held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn and as the judge prepares to set a sentencing date.
We see a lot of people chanting. We see police trying to break it up. Can you describe what's going on out there?
I'm going to tell you what's going on behind the scenes. First of all, it gives you guys some insight into how ridiculous the federal court is sometimes. The judge doesn't need papers from both sides to determine whether there should be bail here or not. He has heard so many bail arguments throughout the course of all these proceedings. They just do this in federal court to make it seem like it's more important and it's definitely more majesty around it. He knows what the bail conditions are. He knows what they've asked for. He has all the paperwork, but he's a new judge. He's a very new judge. And the way new judges often react is they take a timeout, as they should, and they go in the back and they talk to maybe Judge Lewis Kaplan, who did the Trump trial, or Judge Stanley Stein, who did the Menendez trial just now. They were both appointed by President Clinton. They've been on the bench for 35 years. He's going to go and talk to them. What do you think? What are your ideas? My guess is they're going to say to him, well, what's your instinct right now? Do you think you're going to send him to jail for 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years? Because if you are, then keep him where he is. He's already serving time. He's getting credit for it. Why are you going to let him out just to put him back in? But if you're seriously considering giving him a non-jail disposition and just giving him straight probation, well, then you probably, in the interest of justice, should let him out. I don't see a scenario where this judge, with this case, with this notoriety, giving him no additional jail time. But this charge, the Mann Act, is such a BS charge that almost never gets charged in federal court. So he's in a little bit of a quandary, the judge here. My guess is he's probably going to keep him in for at least the time being and maybe say, I'll consider this a little bit more down the road.
Here's how we got here. Earlier this year, a Manhattan jury convicted Combs on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, but acquitted him of more serious sex trafficking and racketeering charges. The verdict in July was a split result that left both sides claiming mixed wins. The underlying indictment dates to a September 2024 federal case tied to allegations by former partners and other witnesses. In a sentencing memo filed September 22, Combs' lawyers asked Judge Aaron Subramanian for leniency. They told the court he's already served nearly 13 months in what they described as harsh conditions at the Brooklyn Detention Center, alleging constant suicide watch, limited clean water, and poor food, and said he's sober for the first time in 25 years and has an incident-free record in custody. The filing was accompanied by dozens of letters from family and loved ones, including an emotional note from his elderly mother asking for mercy. But prosecutors aren't necessarily on board with that short of a term. Under federal sentencing guidelines, the calculations can point to longer prison terms, and prosecutors are expected to file their recommendation by the end of September. The government has argued for a tougher sentence based on the seriousness of the conduct alleged in the indictment and the impact on victims. Important dates. The judge scheduled a hearing for September 25th to consider Combs' motion for acquittal or a new trial, and sentencing is set for October 3rd. That hearing could affect what actually happens at sentencing. If the judge grants any relief, it could change the final outcome. If not, the October 3rd date is when the court will announce the sentence.
Had been reached, which was much sooner than we had expected, because take you back to yesterday when a partial verdict had been reached. This morning, deliberations resumed at 9 a.m. So we all thought that maybe there's going to be a little bit of time before a verdict is reached, because it was on the most serious charges that they had not reached a verdict yet. This is the racketeering racketeering conspiracy. But within a few moments this morning of arriving, we heard that the jury had reached a verdict. So everyone rushed back inside, and we waited. And then the judge said, have the foreperson read the verdict, pass it over to the deputy, and then you'll go through it. And then that's when the not guilty charges started to come. So first off, they read count 1. This is racketeering conspiracy, not guilty. There was an eruption of people just cheering and so happy that he was found not guilty of racketeering conspiracy. Then they went to count 2. This is sex trafficking, not guilty. Then they went to count 3. This is the transportation to engage in prostitution. So he was found guilty of that. Count 4, not guilty, sex trafficking. Count 5, the transportation to engage in prostitution, Julie, again found guilty. So found guilty of 2 of those charges. This is transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, when this was taking place, Sean Diddy Combs started putting his hands like this and looking over at the jury and nodding his head to the jury as they were reading off the not guilty and guilty verdicts. And then he turned around and he was looking at his family, and there were tears going down a lot of their faces because they were so pleased that he was found not guilty of the most serious charges, again, racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Then Mark Agnifilo, his defense counsel, asked that Sean Diddy Combs be allowed to walk out of the federal courthouse today. And the judge said, I want to make sure I'm clear as to what you're asking, Mr. Agnifilo. And Mark was very clear. He said, yes, I am asking, that is Mark Agnifilo's request, to have Sean Diddy Combs walk out of this courtroom today. So quite a scene here. There's no decision yet on that from the judge, Julie. What the judge said is he wants both parties to go back and consult and come back with proposals. He wants each one of them to write a letter to him in regard to whether they think Sean Combs should actually be able to walk out of the courthouse today pending sentencing. So everyone has to keep in mind this is federal court. So what happens in federal court is that federal prosecutors can consider relevant conduct. They don't have to look at what he was convicted of or even what he was charged with. They can consider relevant conduct. And so what the federal prosecutor Comey was saying is there was so much violence here. There were acts of violence. There was coercion. There was force. So, Judge, we're going to ask you to consider all of that relevant conduct when we ask for a sentence. And we're going to ask for a substantial time behind bars for Sean Diddy Combs. So he could face that maximum, Julia, or he would face the maximum. So 20 years. So 10 years for each count. And it appears that the prosecutors will eventually ask for that.
Oh, boy. They're not backing down. Kelly, quickly, before we have to hit a break, please, did you notice any reaction on the faces of those prosecutors when you started hearing those not guilty announcements?
They have been pretty much just looking straight forward, Julie, at their computers, even yesterday when the partial verdict came down. So today, same kind of reaction. But when Comey began speaking, saying that she wants to ask for considerable, substantial incarceration for Sean Diddy Combs, she was very, you could tell just in her voice, she's very fiery and kind of just in a way, just doesn't exactly appear too happy with the verdict, of course.
Oh, I'm sure, Kelly. And you know this from having been a prosecutor. He can't be treated any more harshly or any less harshly than any other defendant found guilty of these crimes.
This case isn't just legal paperwork. It's cost millions in canceled deals, projects put on hold, and a reputational hit to a decades-long career in music and business. Defense filings stress that Combs supports 7 children and an elderly mother, arguing his incarceration has had severe collateral impacts on family and business interests. Meanwhile, civil suits and public fallout mean even after any sentence, the consequences could be long-term. Bottom line, Diddy's legal team wants 14 months. The prosecutors may push for more. A crucial hearing is set for September 25th and sentencing is scheduled for October 3rd, 2 dates that will decide how this chapter ends. If you follow celebrity trials or care about how celebrity justice and accountability intersect, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We break these updates down fast. We show the court filings, and we explain what every legal move means for legacy and business. Drop a comment. Do you think the judge will accept 14 months, or should he get more? We'll read the best takes in the comments.